Good morning, and like magic I appear with the switch of a camera. Shazam! Do you like a bit of magic? Good morning everybody. Thank you for joining me again for this wonderful, wonderful, beautiful thing that's called International Nature Journaling. I do love it. It's something I just discovered by accident. A friend said to me 3 years ago, come on, let's have a go. And I did, and she managed to find herself so busy she couldn't get on with it. And I sat here and so enjoyed it, and decided this year and last year that I just wanted to pull you in as well, if possible. It's great fun. Today is all about creativity. Well, this is what we do, isn't it? This is the thing that all of us do, whether we are making music, working in the garden, cooking and feeding our families. We're creatives, all of us, and it makes us very single-minded in so many ways. And probably, like you, I'm quite single-minded in as much that I know what I like to paint, I know what I like to do. And do you know something? We get a bit stuck sometimes. So this is a very good way to make us think sideways, to make our journals a bit interesting. So creativity, what are we going to do? I thought today we'd have a little play with 3 different things. So we'd better crack on and get on with it, and you can have a go later on. Do let me see what you're up to, because the people who have been posting pictures so far have been wonderful. Thank you so much. It's so exciting to see what you do, because otherwise I sit here in total isolation doing my own thing, and I don't see the beautiful things that you do. And yesterday, the idea of putting the picture across 2 pages was magic. Thank you so much for that. Let me show you. I'm going to turn the camera around. So here we are looking at the workspace. And we'll get rid of that because we don't need that anymore. I think you know who I am, don't you? Let me show you. Oh, the camera's dipped a bit. 2 seconds. Let me just try and lift it a little bit. It all gets a bit saggy after a while. As hard as I tighten some of the bits and pieces, it still manages to avoid me and evade me. There we go. Let's see how we do with that. If it doesn't work, we can always move things around a bit more. Who have we got? We've got Rosie and we've got Fran. Hello, everybody. Lovely to see you there. Thank you so much for joining me. It really means the world, to be honest with you. It really does. So for those of you who might be new, this is the old journal. So this is where I've started with it over recent years. So just flicking through, bear with me, those people who have been with me before. But these are my ideas, and the idea is to constantly try and come up with different ways of making it interesting to look at. I don't want a uniformity to it at all. So I stick bits and pieces in, and one point that's really important for everybody, good morning ladies, is that when you buy your journal, this is silk, by the way, silk painting. Didn't know what to do with it, so I've just stuck it in here. It works, doesn't it? When you buy your journals, if you're thinking of starting, give a little bit of thought to the quality of the paper, because I didn't. And I've bought mine, and it is this cartridge paper, which isn't really thick enough for a decent watercolour. So it means that I have to take watercolours and stick them in. And that's not a problem, particularly with a spiral bound book. You might struggle a bit with that if you had a hardbound book, because of the expansion. Your book would land up sort of, you know, doing this and on this edge. So do give that a thought. Pink Pig make fantastic watercolour journals that are spiral bound, and that would be absolutely ideal. Now, yesterday's effort, we did this with the bamboo, and some of you left this white, and that worked really well. I liked that very much. That was a really good idea. I've cut mine all out so that you can see the fretwork, and I had an old painting and I've cut that in half, because yesterday the idea came up on the chat to use the painting both sides. Brilliant idea, look at that. So I've written down here summer, and I want to paint that, and I will do that with the green. I'll pick up on the greens and put that through there. And then the other thing that I did here was I've written down the side all the things that remind me of summer: swifts, friends, baby birds, walks, barbecues, garden, long grass, blossom, daisies, swallows, flowers, roses, lazy cats in the sun. I've written blossom in twice. Now that's interesting. So that's obviously something that's close to my heart, isn't it? So that was that page. Now, it strikes me that I've got a blank page here, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do on this page. These were leaves that were thrown down as confetti on a concert that we went to a couple of months ago. And I brought them home, I clutched them in my fingers, brought them home. It's just tissue paper, and I've stuck it down. And come the autumn, that will be a really good start for some kind of design. So I have a blank page here, and I'm going to use what I'm doing today to go on this blank page. It will fit beautifully. Now, I'm going to put that away for now, because what I want to do is work on separate pieces of paper. I've got 3 plans for today, 1, 2, 3. And so I want to start with one at a time. Let's just work through, and I need to do some preparation. It needs to dry. So it's a very good idea to do that first, and then we'll get on with this one. So this is going to be a dandelion head, seed head. And I want to give the impression of the seeds, the fluffy seeds around the dandelion head. Different ways we can do that. We can paint it on afterwards with something like white gouache. That can be done. That's not a problem. Oh, good morning, Denise. Oh, everybody, we've got Denise Allen with us. Denise and I are the travelling brush dippers together. We go out and we travel around and do a report and a programme every 3 weeks on YouTube. Do look for the travelling brush dippers. You might enjoy it, particularly our foreign visitors who might like to see what England and what we get up to. Morning, Denise. So dandelion head, and just the hint of where the stem will be. That's all I've drawn out. And in actual fact, if you don't need to draw it and you feel confident enough, just go straight in there, everybody. I want salt. So I've got, this is just common old garden kitchen salt, nothing fancy. And I've got to have that standing by. And I want to put my background in. I need to be quite dark around the head, because I'm going to use the salt to take colour out, and that will give me that idea of the fluff. Now listen, salt really is one of those commodities that either does or doesn't, and I shall scream the house down today if it doesn't. I'm not kidding you. It can be really temperamental. It depends on the weather and how damp the atmosphere. It depends on the paper and the colour paint that you use, all of that nonsense. So today we're going to have a go, and I want to just wet the page first. Why am I doing this? I'm using £140 Bockingford paper, so use for this a good quality watercolour paper. Don't think you can get away with it, because you won't. And I'm coming in there and I'm just wetting the paper, because I want the paper to drink this, not the paint. So that will fill the paper up. It's like being on a diet. That's the glass of water you drink before you have something to eat. And then I'm coming into, this is sap green, and I'm just going to throw it around. Fade it out towards the edges. I don't want it dark around the edges. And I'm not going right up to my waterline so that my edges are lovely and soft and blurred. So that's the plan there. Why don't we drop in a teeny little bit of yellow? This is quinacridone gold. And somewhere on my palette, I did have some Cascade green, and now I can't find it. Is that it? That's it. So I just want, ooh, look how that works, look. I just love this colour. I love the way it just explodes. Look at that. So I'm just going to drop, this is Daniel Smith, beautiful, beautiful paints. And look at the way that's bleeding out. And now I'm going to go into, this is Hooker's Green, and I want to mix a little bit of Cascade Green into that. And I'm going to pull that all around there, because this is where I'm going to put the salt. And then I'm going to introduce a thin sap green actually around the head like that. Now, why have I done that? That seems to be so strange, because we know we want that to be light. If you want something to be light, you need dark behind it. So I'm pouring that into this little lid because I don't want too much salt. If you're worried about your paper cockling, just stick it down with a bit of masking tape. And I'm dropping my salt into the dark colour, and I'm hoping that the salt will bring out the colour. Salt is hygroscopic, it sucks colour into itself. And this is why I wanted the water on first, so that now the salt will suck up this pigment. If the colour has gone into the paper, it's too late. The salt won't work. It just won't work, because it needs to be fluid for the salt to suck the colour up. So I'm just flicking it exactly where I want it. And what we're going to do now is put that aside and ignore it and pretend that we don't care, because trust me, salt is a real little SOD. It does exactly what it wants to do. So I'm just going to put it aside. I'll tell you what I do want to do. I don't like these blobs on the side. So with a damp brush, I'm just going to do that. And that takes it away. Okay, so we leave that alone now. I'm going to put it away over here and ignore it and pretend I don't care. Now, this is going to be a bumblebee. How did we get the texture on here? Let me tell you. This is good fun. This is Payne's Grey, just thin Payne's Grey. And what I did was I wet it first in the same way that I've just done with the salt. Wet it first. And then I dropped in a little fine layer of Payne's Grey, just like I was painting the walls. And then I took some cling film, just kitchen cling film, scrunch it up in your hands, and then just gently open it so it's all really creased up like your very best linen would be after you screwed it up in the linen basket. And then just lay it on the paper and pat it down. And the patterns it will give you when it's dry and it peels off are amazing. Look at that. Now, I don't know about you, but whenever I do this, I always see thousands and thousands of wings in it. Look, there's a butterfly there. Can you see that you've got the wings and there's the body of the butterfly? There's another big wing there. It's just the way it works. And of course, if you do this, you can paint into it. Do one, make it butterflies. Look, can you see that great big wing there? And you've even got the panels of the wings, look. So it's a fabulous thing to do to get your creative juices going, because you could land up with lots and lots of dragonflies. There's a long wing there. So a dragonfly through here would be good. It's just a good way to get your creative going. So we call this found paintings when we're looking for things in other things. Found paintings. So the next thing I want to do with this, I don't want it to be quite as muted as that. I'm going to give it a wash. This is glazing, one colour on top of another. So I'm going to take, I've got some very beautiful, it's a yellow, and this is called quinacridone gold. And straight out of the tube, it's this toffee colour, that dark toffee. But when you mix it with water, lots of water, you get this gorgeous soft gold. So I'm going to use that, and I want it quite thin because I don't want to obliterate the grey. And I'd like a little bit of this sap green. And all I'm going to do is lay it on top. Don't fiddle or twiddle with it. I'm going to do the edges because I want the edges to colour in this green. Let's have a little bit of the yellow. And we're going to paint a honeybee on this one. Just coming round the bee. I wanted to keep him quite clean, really, because I want to be painting his little yellow stripes. And to do that, I'll need to keep him clean. I want the paper to absorb this green around the edges. That's a touch of hookers there. So we can still see the colour underneath, and because it's bone dry, it's not going to fade out or go anywhere. So we've done a bit of that, and then I'm going to do a bit of, wait for it, stand by your beds. Here we've got the green. And I'm just going to do a little bit of that. And that will give us the idea of leaves and bits and pieces behind the bee. I just need to do that because I've missed a bit there. So that also now has to go away, leave it alone, ignore it, pretend we don't know anything about it, and we'll see what happens. Okay, that's good. I have to tell you, the salt's working. It's working. Do you want a quick look? Ta-da! Oh, because that is always a worry with salt. It'll still carry on because it's still damp, so that's fine. We'll leave it alone. That's cool. I'm just putting a weight on these because I want them flat. Now, what are we going to do with this? Everybody, when you are thinking about a picture, think about how you're going to do it. And for this, I'm thinking about Clematis. And you know we've got that beautiful Jackmanii, that purple Clematis. And it's got these beautiful tendrils, and the leaves are pretty. And in the middle of the flower, the petals, there's a white stripe, isn't there? How are we going to do that? Okay, we can paint it, but that's not what we're going to do. Let me show you how we can play with water for this one. I'm going to use a number 6 brush. So that's, here we go, this kind of size. And I need a lovely purple. So how are we going to do that? I've got this rather gorgeous red here. This is alizarin. And if I take, this is cobalt. And actually, having done it that way round, I quite like that. So I thought that I would take the cobalt to the alizarin, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do it the other way around. And I'm loading the whole brush. And I'm going to paint the petals, so large to small. 1, 2. Leave a gap in the middle. 3, 4, and 5. Just like that. We can titivate and tidy them up a little bit once we've got the main shape in, like that. So that's my first flower. And I'm going to try to do another quickly. And this one is all in the timing. So this one, let's do it the other way, from the sharp end to the large. And you've got to decide what you prefer. Whether you like to do it one way or the other. I need to just point that a bit more because that's a bit clunky. 3. I love Clematis. I've got a big blue one in the garden. It's Wedgwood blue and it's the most beautiful colour. So that one, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to pull the petal down around behind like that. And I also want to introduce a bud up there. And we'll have one down through here. Now I'm looking at this. I need that to be damp but not shiny. So I've got to wait at this point. I'm going to grab a very, very thin, small brush. I want a small brush. So you need a 0 or a rigger brush. You know, yesterday I was using a rigger brush, so you could do that, or you could come in here with a little teeny brush like this. I'm going to see which one works best. Here's the rigger. Now it's been in the water, and I'm going to get rid of anything that's on the ferrule. I desperately don't want that to run down. And I've tapped it on the side. Now this is now damp. And if I come into there, the water should push the paint away. You've got to hit it bang on at the right moment. That's too dry. It's too dry. So let's try these. They're a bit wetter. Not too wet. I'll hold it up to the camera in a second. Now you see, having done that, this is too dry. I don't know that that's going to work. Let's see. Well, blow me, it is. Who knows? It is working. It's all in the timing. Go and have a little play with this technique, because when it works well, it really does work well. Let's try this one here. I think that's too wet. This is a technique that's much better on a wet, on an autumn day when it's not too warm. Let's have another go. So I'm going to put in another flower here, a bit bluer this time, a bit too blue, a bit more red. So from there to there. Oh, this is the colour of my blue one in the garden, and it's so gorgeous. There we are. See the joy of this kind of nonsense. If it goes wrong, you can come in afterwards with white gouache. I think that's what we might do. Now that's still a bit shiny. Let's try it. I don't want too much water. Oh, that's okay. This one's too wet. See, you've absolutely got to hit it right. Otherwise it all goes to the dogs. Let me show you. You see here, this one's working quite well. This one was too dry, and this is still too wet. So we've just got to get it right. Let's have another go. Oh, I never say I'm defeated, I'll tell you. Don't believe in it. A bit more red. I'm going to drop another one in there. I love this colour, this lilac, lavender, isn't it? It's not lilac, it's lavender. Love it. It would be quite nice, wouldn't it, to do this kind of idea with all the different colours of clematis that you might have in the garden. I was thinking about doing that with roses, actually, doing a quite loose rose painting with all the colours of the roses in the garden as though they were in a bowl. See this drip? I'm going to just dab my brush on my cloth so it's not clean and get rid of the drips, because they'll just take forever to dry and that will give me grief. So going back to my damp brush now, and let's try. It's better. Too wet, so it's not doing anything. Timing. Could have done with waiting a bit on that one. All in the timing. So we just wait, come through. So what do we do when we're talking about the middles? Middles of clematis flowers are yellow, aren't they? Gorgeous golden yellow. So I'm just going to come in and nudge and budge and smudge that in. Now, interestingly enough, today on the International Nature Journaling website, there is a video all about creative play. You'll find that there today if you want to go and have a look, because when we do something like this, we're always thinking, and you're fiddling at home, what are we going to do with it? How are we going to do it? Or you're thinking about not working in your journal because you're afraid that you won't produce a good piece of work, and it's just nonsense. You should be doing it because you love it, no other reason, just that. And so do have a look, creative play, and it's using pen and all sorts of things. This lady just goes into it and looks at it and just draws and paints. And I know that's not simple. I do understand that. I know that's not simple, but that's not the point. The point is free up. Just be free. Now I've got my sap green on my brush, and I'm also going to just lift a bit of my hooker's green, and I want to use those colours together. This is called double loading. I'm going to pull it through so that I've got my stem for my clematis. So that joins them all together. Here, when we're looking at our buds, again, have some green on the brush, that light green, dark green on the other side. So I've got the two colours, and I'm going to come in there and I'm going to lay down that's too thick, so what we'll do is we'll just pull it out and curve it like that and make it look more elegant. We won't be able to use the brush again because the colours are there and they're on the brush and all muddled up now. So what I've got to do is come back, reload into the sap green, and then reload on the other side of the brush with the hookers. Put it down, squidge, lift, down, squidge, lift, one in there. And that I want to also make sure that it's joined to the main event. So how can we translate that into the leaves? Well, what we can do, this is back to the number 6. I'm going to half load with sap green, turn it over, have some of the hookers, and then what do the leaves do? Kind of heart-shaped leaves, aren't they? And it will be nice later to come in there and to put some veins on the leaf. I'm going to put one in through there. Just come round your plants, round your flower heads. That's fine. Drip. So wick it, get rid of the liquid, and then just come in, gently lift it. So clean it. One green, and then turn it over and have a bit of the other. And I'm going to come up here and then I want something here. So think about 1, 2, 3. I want to do something down here. In there. And we're going to put veins on those in a little bit. We'll have a little something through there to balance it up so that we don't have 1, 2, 3, 4. And what to do? I want an even number in there. So that will do us. So we have some clematis. Right, jolly good. Now, what do we do to really enliven it? We can, choices we have, choices. I can come in here with my gold paint. So this, believe it or not, is gold calligraphy ink. Winsor & Newton calligraphy ink. And I just want to introduce some little teeny tiny dabs around here like this to give it a bit of ka-ching. These will be the stamens around the flower, around the centre of the flower. So just a bit of enlivenment there, so that gives that a lift. If we're not happy about the centres where the white hasn't shown up too well, choices are we can go in there and we can either introduce white gouache, so we can use white gouache. So what does that look like? When you're using this stuff, I've got a horrible habit of going into the tube like this and just playing with it neat. But if you don't want to do that, please don't put it on your palette. Don't put it on here, because it leaves a mark on your palette. Horrible white chalky mark, and it doesn't come off. No, even if you took to it with a green scourer, it doesn't come off. So don't try not to have that on your palette. It's not nice. So we've got that choice, or we can come through with a white pen, and I've found that the best white pen that we can use on the market is here somewhere. Where are you hiding? Come here. Is a Jelly Roll. I've tried all sorts of white pens. If you go and have a look on my YouTube, there's a series of 3 called Sharon Talks Art, and in one of them I look at 20 different types of white pen. Oh, and they're a nightmare. But these, I find, stay white and they stay active. Some of them, the second time you go back to them, they don't work. And I don't know how companies are selling things like this and getting away with it, because it's just con, really. So if you'd like to see that, that's Sharon Talks Art, and that's also on my YouTube channel. Just go and have a look. So we can add some white to that, like that. We can do it like that. All right, that works quite well, and it stays white. It's a good white colour. The other option, of course, is white ink, which is always good. All right. Now, here's something interesting from Louise Sharp. I'm just looking. She says, scrunch up cling fill, open it out on your mat and spray different inks and paints or brush-o water. Then put your card on top and you will get a great background too. That sounds like a very good idea, doesn't it? Very good idea. And I see that Louisa has bought herself 3 Clematis. Oh, it sounds lovely. What colours did you buy? Oh, I do love them, I must admit. Now, I'm now using a very fine tipped pen. It's a water-based pen. So it means that if I want to, I can go in and blur the lines a little bit. I'm just going to use this for the veins on my leaves. So we can do this, and we can give that a bit of style. So that would be interesting. See, if that was me, I would be quite tempted. I really like pen work, and I would be going around my flowers, and I would be introducing pen. And don't come round it all beautifully like this. I like to just scribble a bit, so that the lines are softer. There's an artist that you may have heard of. I know some of you for sure will have done, and it's Ali Board, and she calls it the Morse code method. So what you're doing is a dot, dot, dash, dot, 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 like this, and it gives you an more open feel. So dash, dot, dot, dash, that, like that. So just imagine it's Morse code. But I quite like the look of that. But that's me. If you don't, that's absolutely fine. I'm just here showing you how I fancy it. Doesn't mean you've got to do the same. You've got to do what you want to do. There we are. So it gives us some little delicate lines on the leaves. Now, the next thing that we've got to deal with Clematis, they create the most beautiful tendrils. Love painting these on silk scarves, because you can really get into the tendrils and drape them all over the shop. And I really enjoy doing that. So let's throw some in. We can either do it with the pen, so we come out and it's this kind of idea. You can also use your rigger brush and use a green, and make sure you load your brush up fully, the whole brush in the paint, whole lot. It's got to be a brush full so that the line keeps going. Make sure you haven't got any blobs on it, there's not too much paint, and then find somewhere that you want to fill. So I'd come out of here, let me do it sideways, I can't do it that way, sorry. So round and round. Now, not so easy doing the circles, so if you've got a problem, come back the other way, join it up like that. So round, like that. All right, so find a different way to do it, because otherwise the brush might flick, and then the next thing you know, you've got flicks of stuff everywhere. So I'm coming through there, it kind of joins it all up. And then I think just to add to Life's Rich pattern, I need to just come in here with a pen so that it's not just this one, which looks bizarre on its own. It means I can come in there and do that. And perhaps another one through there. And the key to that is to keep it fluid again. Just move it. Don't be faffing with it. Just keep the movement fluid with your hand, really important. Now that can go away because we want to go back to, I'm still going to leave my salt alone to make sure it's dried properly. Come back to our bee, and here he is. So we've got a bit of colour, we've still got the texture, and all we're going to do with our dear little bumblebee is come in and introduce the yellow first, so that we've got this lovely bright colour. And I want yellow on the shoulders. Did you know there's about 200 different types of bumblebee? I was really surprised. Friend told me that. I never knew that. And I'm going to make him fluffy like this. And then to give the impression of light on him, rinse your brush, dab, dab, and then come into the middle of it and lift the colour out. Dab, dab, come in. And that's what we call a thirsty brush, because it's going in and it's thirsty and it's lifting the colour out. So just like that, look. And it gives you a highlight on him, look. You've got to admit that's cool. So there you go, that's that. Now I want to come into his little head, and I'm going to fiddle about with either a 4 or a 2 here, because I need the options of the darkness, and I want Payne's grey. And what I'm going to do here is come into the head, and I'm going to just put that in like that. And this doesn't need to be a production, and again pop that across. If it runs, it's fine, because then that gives the idea of fur. And again with a clean damp brush, just coming in to lift the highlight out of his head. Now I really want some of that fur to dry, so what we'll do in the meantime is come back to our Payne's grey. We're jumping about, but it has to be done so that we can keep it dry and clean. So legs, little round bit, little straight bit, and then another little straight bit. That's the first leg. So the round bit, why haven't I coloured it in? I'll show you. Straight bit, just do it with a brush, let it dry, straight bit like that. And they have kind of little flat pads on their front legs, little flat pads. And I haven't coloured that in because I'm going to just rinse the brush, and I'm going to now come in and just pull the black over. And that's another way to get a highlight in the middle of something, okay? Same applies for the middle legs. Insect, 6 legs. So this is a really good way to have a think about your little bits and pieces in the garden. Go and have a look. and see and watch. So there, I've got the same idea of the leg, and then we've got a long rounded bit like that, and then we've got straight, and he's got little toes on that one, little toes. So same on this side, the round little thigh, this is where he puts his pollen, I guess. That, and then we've got this little toe thing going on here. Don't have to be too precise, everybody. This leg curves out a bit like this. And then that has a straight bit. And it has another little sort of that shape on the end. So again, round, like that, straight bit, and then that little bit on the end. And what we're going to do is just use the damp brush. Okay, I'm going to use the damp brush to come in and just smudge that. Smudge it, nudge it and budge it. Always say that's a well-known firm of solicitors. One day somebody's going to pick me up on that and say, oh, that's the name of my brother-in-law's firm. There you go. Now, little bees have antennae. So I'm going to take my brush. They also have little kind of proboscis nose, look. Imagine it's a nose. And then from here, we've got one little antenna like that. And then we have another one from here. And these are a bit hairy. So how do we make them look a bit hairy? We take our water, and I'm just going to come in there and soften one side of it. Just like that. And that gives you that soft look. All right. His little eyes, same applies. We're going to come around the outside of the eye like that, and like that. And all I'm going to do is just come in and on this edge, the bottom, nudge it and budge it. And again, that gives me that highlight just on the top of the eye. Just what I want. So I'm going to come into his back now, and we're going to work that with Payne's Grey, and you're going to use a lovely brush stroke. You're going to use this seesaw, in, out, shake it all about, look, cut into it, and that will make him look fluffy. We can fill that in solidly, like that. And then I'm going to come down here, and this time you're not cutting into it, you're laying it on top. So this time you're coming onto the yellow, and I want you to lay it on top of the yellow like that. And it's cutting motions with your brush. Solid in the middle. I'm going to have a little play with that in a minute. And then on the bottom bit here, down here, we're again seesawing in and out, cutting into it. Like that. And he's fluffy. So if you can, and if you've got enough room, give him a fluffy bottom. All right? So he's fluffy. There you go. Now, wings, we want to make them see-through. And to do that, we need to see what's underneath. So the first thing I'm going to do is come into either side of his shoulders, and I've got a dry brush. It's damp. And I want to lift some paint, because this is where the shoulders are going to be. There, like that. So we can see that we've got areas that are lighter, and that's going to be where the wings are going to be on his shoulders. How do we do the wings? What I want you to do here is just come in. Again, I've got the Payne's Grey, and I'm just going to come from there, and I want to pull it up and round like that. It's narrow here, out and round like this, right? So that gives us one wing. I'm going to have to turn it the other way because I know I'll get that wrong otherwise. So out through here and then narrow there, and then you get to all the beautiful shapes on his wings here, and we'll turn around. And with these we're going to just come in and a whole lot with a damp brush. I'm going to soften it. Just soften it. Only on the inside. Just nudge it and budge it like that. All right. And then with a brown, so I'm going to use just something like burnt umber. Thin burnt umber, just a wash of burnt umber. I'm going to come into the edges of the wings like this and like this. And again, rinse, dab, dab, and come in and seesaw. We still want to see everything that's in the background behind. This is what makes the wings look see-through. Right, so we do need a bit of that. We need some brown around the bottom edge as well. And always come in from the side that you want to blend. So come in and soften like that, gently, gently. Not too much water, learn to control the water. And then that, for now, just has to dry up a little bit. I'll tell you what we could do with, which would be a good plan. Quite like a bit of a highlight down his back. So I'm just lifting a little bit of paint out like that. Just to give him a bit of a highlight. Now that needs to dry, so we leave that alone for a minute, and what I want to show you next is give him the idea of some pollen and some honeycomb. And this is sequin waste. You can buy it in a roll on eBay or Amazon. And I know that they're not the perfect shape, they're rounds, but when you put this on here, trust me, you will not notice. And all you're going to do with that is pop it on. And I'm tempted to do this with gold, you know. Let me see. Let me see. And use a scruffy brush. Don't use a good brush because I'm going to be unkind to it. So this is actually my masking fluid brush. And what I want to do, if you're more comfortable doing this and making sure that it is stuck down, just use a little bit of masking tape. I'm holding it down. Don't want to hold it so it's in, you can't see in the light. And I'm just going to come over there with my gold. And this is why you really won't notice that it is not the right shape, because you're just giving the impression. I'm using the muck around the neck of the gold. Don't make a lovely square shape. Pull some of it out so that you've got odd bits. My students were very ambivalent about this. Some of them liked it, some of them didn't. Some of them liked to actually draw the shapes of the honeycomb. So this is entirely up to you, but you see that works quite well. Gives the impression that you've got the honeycomb behind. Let me show you the original painting so that you can see what you think. Here's one I did earlier in good true Blue Peter fashion. So I've done the honeycomb here with the sequin waste, and up here I've drawn it. So it's up to you. Decide what you like, how you want to do that. Okay, that's up to you. But there is the original painting, and you can choose. Now, the only other thing you need to do with our dear little thing is take your fine brush, and you need to come into those wings with the thinnest thinnest colour, and this time I'm using a mixture of burnt umber and a teeny bit of Payne's grey, and I'm going to pull the lines through the wings, right? And they're all sorts of patterns. They're panes of glass, they are beautiful. Just enjoy the movement and the moment. Some of them will be darker than others, and this is the key. You want to just gently, gently scribble through these beautiful little marks on our bee's wing. Little shapes. Beautiful, delicate little veins. It's funny, isn't it? Because when you think about bees, they said they would never fly. They shouldn't fly, should they? I'm going to need to do it that way so that I can see what I've done. Otherwise I should be up the creek doing it wrong. I don't know whether they're exactly the same. I've never been able to look that closely. Every now and again you find a dead bee, don't you? I think maybe I need to do a bit of research next time that happens. I've got a little robin singing out the front here, singing his heart out. So you see, that's all you need for your patterns on your wings. Really, really, really not a lot. Not a lot. But you have a bee for your journal. Put him in somewhere. I'm going to do just a page of collage. And then back to our salt. That's worked beautifully. Beautifully. I'm pleased with that today. Makes a change. As I say, it's really, really temperamental. Now I'm brushing the salt away because I don't want that on there now. And all I'm going to do with that is just make that a little bit more interesting. I'm going to come in here with my sap green and I'm going to just introduce a little bit around there. One hard edge, one soft edge. And then I'm coming into my burnt umber. And I need to define this bottom edge, which would be in the shadow. So I'm going to do that. And again, scuff the paint around. Doesn't matter, you don't have to be perfect about it. And then I'm going to keep some hard and some soft. So soften that up, you see, and it makes it gentle, doesn't it? And now I need a real dark kick in there, so I'm going to go for Payne's grey. And all I'm going to do is that. Just drop a little bit and it's just bleeding into the rest of it. That's cool. And I just need to define that edge. So I'm going to take a really fine brush. I want my number 2 and thin colour, the same sort of colour that I was using basically on my bee. And I just want to run that round that outer edge so that it's defined like that, so that it stands out. And how do we do a stem, a stalk? That's easy. We're going to take our green, dark green to start with. This is the hookers. And I'm going to come in there. And what I want to do is just pull it, rinse, dab, and then get hold of the colour. And pull it away. Soften down one side. You just want to give the hint of a stem. And down this end, I'm going to get hold of it and I'm just going to pull it back so that that bottom end fades out like that, just fades away. Just like that. And in realistically, we need to have a dark, so this is the Payne's grey and the burnt umber again. And all I'm going to do around here is just a couple of the dots on the head where the seeds would have taken and flown away. This is where they were rooted in. You can, if you want to, pull one through. So imagine that one is still attached. They've got a little seed on the end like that. And then if I were you, for delicacy's sake, I would now use my pen to draw the seed, because I know if I tried to do that with a brush, I'd make a real dog's breakfast of it. I know I would. So that would give you one seed head like that. And this shows you how the plant works. You've got the seed head, and you might want to do a little picture underneath of maybe a yellow dandelion head to give the impression that there are other flowers. And if we'd have had common sense, if you're doing this yourselves, it might have been a good plan to have dropped in a couple of spots of yellow, because that would give the impression of the dandelion flowers behind. So just a thought for the future. But we've learnt how to do this salt technique. It's not bad, is it? All right, now, just to give you another idea for the day, if you want a bit of twinkle on something like this, don't despair if you don't have golden paints and glitter paints. Have you got any nail varnish? Don't be afraid to come in there and just offer up a little bit of glittery nail varnish. That works. It doesn't degrade your paper, it doesn't make it nasty. Nothing wrong with a bit of nail varnish. I'm going to put some in on the bee. I'll use anything, really. And it's much easier than using glitter and glue. And that will stay there, it won't discolour, and it will be quite fun. And there you go, you've got this idea on your bee. So there's that. Do that if you'd like to. Now, something else that I've done in the past with my journal, this is one that's going in now. You could take a photograph. So this is my garden. This is my special little bit of my garden. I like this huge, great big tree, hundreds of years old, great big oak. And I've made a little garden here where I like to sit and just watch the world go by. And I have continued the picture out here onto the paper. There's my cat's socks sitting there watching the world go by. And this is a lovely way to enhance a photograph. So don't be afraid of putting photographs in your work and then working around the photograph, perhaps doing your painting of it next to it. You could do that, and then you could paint the rest of the garden around it. Or I could take a photograph of the cat and cut him out, and then I could paint the rest of it. Have a think about that, because that's a nice way to kind of enhance. And all of these bits of paper are bits of paper that I've discarded for other things. So, you know, it's not a bad thing. You can play with all of this and use up bits and pieces. And as far as the palettes are concerned, I've just used what I've got in my palettes from other jobs. So come back to me for a minute and let's say, ta-ta. There we go. So from me, for the journaling week, that's it now. I'm working over the weekend, so I can't be with you, sorry. I hope you do carry on with it. The prompts are all there on the website, and if you go and look at the Facebook page, it's there on Facebook. They would love, love, love to see what you do. I see some of you have been putting your work up. For that, thank you very much. And honestly, it's just beautiful, beautiful things you've been up to and you've been doing. And let people know, just let people know about it. It's worth signing up. They don't annoy you with emails and spam throughout the year. It's just for this week. There is a Facebook page for fans like us where we can put our pictures up. But as far as the Nature Journaling Week concerned, team are concerned, they will only contact you just before to let you know it's coming. And it's worth signing up so that you get those emails pinged through, and you know then that, you know, this is going to be the week and you can plan to be free for it. This is what I do. try and make sure I'm not too busy. So I'd like to say thank you so very, very much for joining me. I've had a lovely time with you, and it's been nice to sit here and treat myself, to be honest with you, to just enjoy being here and having a play myself, because a lot of us don't do that. We only do it because we want to have an end product. There's another exhibition or somebody's asked you to paint something. Do it for yourself. Give yourself permission to have some time out and just enjoy it, all right? And I will see you next time. See you soon. Bye-bye, everybody.